Welcome to Harpeth Moon Farm. I'm Haley and this is Max.
We are a USDA certified organic vegetable and flower farm, and we grow berries as well. We're operating on about 1 acre of property. There's a lot to look at.
This is our 7th season with Harpeth Moon Farm. The first season, it was just Max and I, and we had off-farm jobs, and we grew everything that we wanted to grow to kind of test the waters.
When we started, we had pretty much no infrastructure. Like, we had no irrigation lines. We had none of these tunnels that we're standing in. Add to that the fact that we were also trying to figure out what grew well, what our market was. It was a very, it was just like a very new period of just learning everything all at once.
Our first order of business was to get a greenhouse that we could grow our transplants in and run irrigation lines up here, and we were able to do that with the help of Tennessee Ag Enhancement Program. And then also we were able to invest in these high tunnels with the help of NRCS.
Yeah, they awarded us a 50% cost share since we're USDA certified organic. So that allowed us to install irrigation, greenhouse, and a few other things. I think we were able to buy some blueberries at a 50% cost. And then the NRCS was able to fully fund several of these tunnels. The cost of entry for farming is incredibly high. Sustainable agriculture absolutely has to include financial sustainability in order for it to be a viable operation and career. And so, especially starting out, it's been a huge benefit to our business for sure.
I think people come to our farm and are surprised sometimes. You know, it's not this 50-acre tract that's completely flat. You know, what you picture when you picture a vegetable farm. Growing on the hilltops of our land, we really had to kind of figure out what worked best for our land, you know, more so than trying to force the land into some sort of idea of how it should be grown. Implementing more soil-friendly and river-friendly practices, it just made sense.
Being USDA certified organic is sort of our baseline standard. Like, we try to go as far beyond that as we can.
A lot of our soil practices are cover cropping in the winter as well as the summer for various different reasons. We have been practicing no-till, which allows us to not disturb the soil and keep the horizons, you know, intact, and thus like the bacteria and life thriving in there.
When we started, we were running, you know, this New Holland tractor, tilling plots, and then trying to plant these plots every spring. And it was always too wet when we needed to plant. The tractor makes these huge tracks in the soil, and we're starting from scratch every year building these new beds. And it's just like we're constantly sliding backwards, starting from scratch. As we grew, and in fact, the first year that we got one of these tunnels approved, it kind of opened our eyes that, like, we didn't have to till every time we wanted to start planting. Every time you till, you're bringing up old weed seeds that have been stored in the soil for years, and they will, at that first light, they'll germinate and cause you all kinds of labor and production issues because you've got to get rid of weeds. The more intact the soil is, the more the soil can self-regulate the moisture content. You know, if there's all these roots and mycorrhizae and stuff that are able to sort of just absorb the water and then pass it back and forth as needed, it's a lot more sustainable for water usage than it would be if we were just watering just pulverized soil structure. Yeah. And it just allows us to keep a living soil. So when we put a plant into the soil, it just like takes right off. You know, it's just got that community of support, just like
already there.
Yeah, just ready to go. This is a cover crop. But this is actually daikon radish. Let me see if there's one in there. Find a good one, Haley. So we're growing. This. Yeah, they get huge. So another name for daikon radish is tillage radish. Basically, its purpose as a cover crop, among other purposes, is to grow a really long taproot that breaks into the soil, into the lower layers of the soil. And then with a really hard freeze, the daikon dies, and then it just sort of rots, and it just leaves this big hole where it was growing. And it's basically aerating the soil, a little bit of drainage. So we pair that with winter rye, oats, and crimson clover. The crimson clover is a nitrogen fixer, so it's providing nitrogen for the growth and breakdown of the cover crop. And then the oats and rye and radish are all providing like ground cover. Because we're not tilling with a tractor, we still have to amend the soil structure to some degree so that we have something plantable. And so by
And we let these guys till for us, you know?
Yeah, so by using these crops, it's basically doing that work for us in a much healthier and much less taxing way physically.
Yeah, so this is actually sun hemp cover crop, which is a nitrogen fixing summer annual cover crop. It grew to be about, what'd you say, 12 feet tall? Mm-hmm. Here, we can maybe look under it.
Part of the effect of the tarp is the crimping. So we can just knock it down and put this tarp on top, and it holds it down. And on a hot day, it actually kind of just bakes the plant to effectively kill it, which allows us to leave the plant completely intact here, which is a lot of organic matter that is then mulching the soil.
So then come spring, we'll pull this off. All this material will have been, broken down by our little friends under there, and we'll plant our spring onions directly into there. Yeah. That soil feels nice too. Here at Harpeth Moon Farm, we're right on the Harpeth River, and that's very much our life. Is very much, it makes me emotional. We love the river so much. We canoe on the river, we hang out on the river, we read books by the river, our dog swims in the river. Like, our life revolves around the Harpeth River. Being able to be a river-friendly farm is just, it's great.
It's our ecosystem. And beyond that, we pride ourselves on growing a clean product. So clean water is at the very basis of that entire thing. And it ties into the philosophy of our growing practices. When we're trying to minimize tillage, we're trying to promote connectivity within the soil where there's a whole living ecosystem that's able to support our operation, and that on a macro scale involves all of our waterways and our airways and our entire ecosystem has to be thriving in order to really have that truly clean product. So it's all imperative that we keep the water clean.
Yeah.
In the future, in order to get people to continue getting into agriculture, I think that it's pretty important that we change the paradigm a little bit to look more like farming is a highly skilled trade that is intrinsic to our ability to survive as a species and as a planet.
I think a lot of times, we can think of things in our society as instant gratification and stuff like that, but, we as young farmers are hoping to be here for 20, 30 years, even beyond, and sometimes you have to put the work in at the beginning for it to be easier and just better and more sustainable in the future.